Hi everybody, welcome to Seafood Strategies, Elevate Your Move, Scale Beyond. And our topic of discussion today is Act Before It Hits Productivity Strategies and to lead, build and win. I'm sorry to say that it is proactive strategies to lead, build and win. Uh, your go-to podcast on tech, cybersecurity and strategy. I'm your host Prem Kumar AS, and we will explore how proactive strategies can lead, build, and win in today's session. A special welcome to Power of Knowing Forum's weekly podcast audience on episode 261 on LinkedIn Live today. We have our host Bharti Naik, Productivity Coach, NLP Trainer, Global Speaker joining us today. Let's welcome our esteemed speaker to our podcast event and let's dive into the topic. Hi, Bharti. Welcome to our podcast. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
Good, Bharti. Thank you for joining us today. And a small intro about yourself to the audience, Bharti, so that we understand who
Sure,
they are listening to.
sure. And thank you so much, Prem, for this wonderful opportunity. And I really welcome all the audiences who are watching us live on this platform. My name is Bharti Naik, and it's been over 18 years that I'm into learning and development space. I'm a proactivity coach. It is proactivity,
Yeah,
which defines you go beyond productivity and look at your mindset to be proactive. Also, NLP trainer. So it's been over a decade now that I'm practicing, teaching, and also conducting workshops on NLP programs. A global speaker, also entrepreneur for more than 12 years now that I'm an independent entrepreneur working absolutely with my zeal and enjoying this entire journey of entrepreneurship. It started way back when I was working as an employee for different multinational companies. I was into market research. Then I moved into HR space. I was identified as a human resource professional. So you can say I was a born trainer in TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. And that is where my entire journey changed from being into a research to into learning and development space. And that's how I'm a part of it. So from a corporate trainer, moving on to an executive coach to becoming a professional speaker, that's how it has been my journey so far.
great, Bharti. 18 years and 12 years on entrepreneurial journey, and you sustained during COVID period is another nice thing that we can look at. Is many businesses went out of business because of COVID, and
Yeah.
people who have sustained, claps to them, congratulations to them, because it was a real tough time.
Yes.
Coming to our topic, Bharti, what does proactive leadership mean in today's volatile business climate?
It's a wonderful question, and this is the first question I'm always asked that what is proactivity? What is proactive leadership? And I always refer this by saying that look at leadership from proactivity point of view, from that perspective,
Mhm.
where you are fostering a culture of dynamic leadership. You are cultivating a proactive mindset, and you are not only changing people's mindset and the actions, the processes of being proactive, planning and preparing yourself, but at the same time you are also fostering a fantastic relationship with your teams. You
Hmm.
are communicating way much in advance about everything that you are doing. So this is one gap that I always noticed when I meet department heads, unit heads, or even CEOs of the companies. This is the major gap that I see. They have vision, they have a lot of dreams, goals to achieve, they have a mindset, they also have a strategy. What misses is communicating it to the team in exactly the same way and making them a part of that vision. And that is where proactive leadership comes into picture.
Now, coming to that point, see, any business comes to certain setbacks, right? we, we are in the entrepreneurial journey, that's a different setback. Again, there are different ways of looking. How or can we share a moment where a active saved your team or a company from a major setback?
Yeah. So for this podcast, I'll be sharing some of the example stories, which are my clients' stories as well. So I remember I was dealing with one of the client. They are a manufacturing unit, a pharma company in Vapi,
Hmm.
and that is where they were working with the team, the department heads. They all were working within the team. Every time they would have some work,
Hmm.
it was more about a reactive kind of a method, reactive kind of a strategy. They will look at the moment, they look at these things, and then they will act on it. Also, what was happening with them is even though the planning, everything was in place, there was a big gap in the execution. That's what was missing. And when I started intervening into their processes, I realized that the process and everything is fantastic. What was missing was the communication that was happening within the teams, within the departments. That was the major gap that I noticed. And what I did was a simple thing. I asked each and every person to have a strong rapport with each other. So we did our exercise. We went through a half a day of fantastic experience where only key stakeholders are there. And with the kind of bond that they created, because of that a small experience that I took them through, that is where, because of the bonding, they become so close to each other that even before something happens, one of the department head could anticipate that this could be an error, and this will give a major problem in the production, and that is where we will have a client escalation. And right in time this was identified, and that's how they communicated it with the production, and they changed immediately. So they didn't wait for QC, they didn't wait for any kind of R&D report, but they acted at the moment, because there was one small thing that was noticed by a department head. But that could happen only when they came together as one single unit, and not working in silos and saying that, oh, this is not my job, this is
I
somebody.
think I think your point is very valid in terms of two things that I would like to add is, uh, when it is an organization, anybody can lead. That's the first point that we can look at, because if there is a challenge and if it is going to affect the organization's reputation, then I think it's the first choice that they have to at least report. Maybe if it is considered or not considered, that's a sec. You'll have to. When it comes to the organizations, the second point that I would like to say is, uh, we are there till the organization is there, and it becomes our responsibility to look at minute things which can affect. It becomes overall responsibility to have a healthy organization when we look at some of the issues that we can see, right? So that's where I think majorly we see people should look at overall picture, and that's where I think these pointers come in. When somebody identifies an issue and they tell about it, then it's great to have that kind of a feedback done, right? Now, coming to that point, what do most of the leaders wait for disruption before acting? Why? I'm no, sorry, not why. What it is? Why do most of the leaders wait for a disruption before acting, right? What is the mindset shift that is needed to come out of that kind of a situation or that kind of a culture?
So I would say leaders, they wait for disruption is because they are very much comfortable in the zone that they are, and it is much safer zone. So if you are comfortable, you feel safe, and you're not entering into any uncertain or unknown territories, and that's why uh, they would be like, okay, whatever is happening, let it be. So I would always say that there are three types of leaders. One, who don't wait for anything, they take things in their hands, they take it forward. It's like I say, owning up your space, owning up your situation and act on it. The other set of leaders are where they will wait and watch something happens and then we act on it. And there'll be third, they'll always be wondering if something happens or if something doesn't happen, more like a spectators kind. And
Okay.
I remember this. There was this one company, a media house
Hmm.
in Ahmedabad. I was called for an intervention. I was speaking to a CEOs, and he said, "Before I ask you to do anything with my people, I want you to sit with them, talk to them, find out what is it that they are, who they are, and can we change them." And I said that will be a very interesting project. So I took 2 days time, 2 full days. We were like 16 people, and I sat with each of them,
Hmm.
had a fantastic interaction, and the CEO demanded that I would give him a report, uh, citing everything that I spoke and everything that was shared. I said, for the confidentiality, I won't even share everything with you.
Hmm.
However, there will be some points that I will definitely share, which will be helpful to you. I gave him the report. He read, and his son, who's an MD, he also read the entire report, and he said, "Holy moly, how come your report is 98.5% so accurate? How could you how could you talk to these people and give us what exactly we were looking for?" And I said, of course, well, this is where the expertise comes in. And he said, okay, now the first question is, can we change them? Can we do something about it? Because I know these are the people who are going to run my company and they are the stakeholders. So can we do something about it? I said, if they are horses, you can train them and speed up everything. But if they are donkeys, you can't make them horses. And I'm not going to do any magic on them. So he said, what do you mean? I said, this is what it is. Out of 16, these are some of the people who are in a very comfortable position, complacent. You need to give that kind of environment, that kind of space. But the first question is, are you willing to do that as a CEO of a company? Do you want to
Hmm.
give that kind of culture, space, where they own up things and be ready to fail, be ready to learn, and be ready to own up, take initiative, do something about it? Would you be able to give that kind of power and authority to these department heads? If yes, let's work on it. If no,
Hmm.
then I think you're just running with the donkeys in your company, not the horses.
Okay. Okay. That was a very straightforward question that you
Oh,
had put, I
oh
think.
yes.
I think
Oh
that
yeah.
would have made many CEOs and others to think whether I am talking to what kind of a people, and that gives them. And most of the people who are in the leadership don't get offended when you give that kind of a feedback, and they take it very proactive, right,
Yes.
and see what is that has to be looked at and see how it is to be done. So that is a very nice way of looking, is what I feel, Bharti. Now, coming to the next point, what is one daily habit that helps leaders stay ahead of the curvables, right? So that's where I wanted your inputs, Bharti.
So I have this one habit. Whenever I wake up in the morning, I finish my usual things. That one habit is I ask this one question to myself: is what is that one task that I want to complete today?
Hmm.
Not start, not uh, doing something continuous, but a one task that I want to complete today that will make the difference in my business.
Hmm.
And I just put down that task, however long it is, even if it is taking some few hours, but I want to complete that task today. And that puts me into a fantastic momentum, a focused kind of an approach, and I tend to complete. So by end of the day, I say, okay, I started with this question, have I answered this question to myself or not at the end of the day? So that is one habit that I do, and it has worked fantastic. No list, to-do list, no kind of things have worked, but this one task, one question that I have asked, it has put me into a moving forward approach in my business.
I think we all follow the task list. That is more important. Actually, you tick them out and then say, oh, I did not miss this, but still we would have missed many of the tasks, actually speaking, right? So
Yeah,
how do we identify invisible threats or emerging patterns before even the become as a crisis? Because you started with, many of them would like to watch and see what is happening, right?
yeah,
Then they'll react. So, and somebody needs an approval kind of a thing, where then they'll react, because I don't have an approval, I don't do anything. So that
yeah.
kind of people. So with this kind of thing, how do we identify such pointers?
So I would say, as a leader, uh, either you are running your own business and you have a small team, or you have a team of consultants.
Hmm.
Like before COVID, I had a team of my own. I was running an office of 10 to 12 people. Post COVID, everything changed.
Hmm.
From team members, I have consultants now. I do tell them as a part of they are a part of my team and we work together. But yes, they are consultants. So whether you are a business owner working with a team or consultants, or you are a CEO of a company, uh, it is more about observations. It's more about listening to what's not being said, rather than waiting and wondering what happened and said. Because nothing happens suddenly in a company. Everything has an initial starting point. Everything has a trigger, and then it sets a pattern. Now, as a business owner, my job is to identify where the trigger is and how the pattern is formed in my company. Whether it is a team that I'm working with, consultants that I'm working with, clients that I'm working with, it is always something that is not said. It could be. So I'll give you a quick feedback. When I had a team of 12 people,
Hmm.
beginning of the month we always had this kind of a meeting where I would discuss and talk about the numbers, and also talk about the monthly goals that we would look forward to. It will just set the momentum for the month. And I was talking about the numbers that this month we want to reach, have these many clients onboarded, and this is how we are going to reach the revenue targets. And I had two girls, business development girls. They were listening to me, and I was talking to them, giving them an eye contact. And when I spoke about the number, one of the girl, she had a very weird kind of she made a very weird change. There was a change on her face.
Hmm.
What changed was there was a left side of the nostril that swelled up and it came back.
Okay.
A very minute change that I could notice on her face. And after I completed, I asked everybody, "Do you have any questions?" Now this is the first indicator. If there are no questions, that's a red flag.
Okay.
Why there are no questions from the team? Are they so okay with the numbers? Are they excited about the numbers? Are they overwhelmed with the numbers? Are they nervous? What is it? There's no question. So that's the first red flag.
Okay.
So obviously, they all nodded. And as a owner, if you see that your team is nodding yes, it's like a yes people, it's
Hmm.
again a red flag.
Okay.
Why they are not questioning? Why they are not counter asking you something? And this girl, everybody said, "No, ma'am, we don't have any questions." And I came back to that girl. I said, "You have something. You want to ask something? Do you have something to share?" Because a thought ran through your mind, and
Hmm.
you are just keeping it to yourself. Just share it. And obviously, she was hesitated. So she said, "No, no, no, that's all fine." Now, that's where, as an owner, you give that kind of space for your team member to speak up. So I said, "Look, this is a meeting where we are doing it for the month. Whatever we speak, whatever we share, this is how we are going to work. And it's an open conversation, it's an open space. Just share whatever you have it in mind. This is not the numbers that are coined in a stone. We can always change. So share what is the concern." And that is why she said, "Ma'am, the numbers that you gave, it seems unrealistic. They are like way beyond what we are expecting. And I don't think we'll be able to achieve it." I said, "Okay, I'm hearing. Tell me more about it. So, what is it that you are suggesting?" And she said, "I think we are at X number. We will, of course, we will work more, we'll stretch more. And we reach to X plus. That is absolutely doable. I'm not saying we'll go to X or we'll maintain the X or we'll do X minus, but we are going to do X plus. We are not going to do X square. That's not something that will happen in a month. But
Yeah.
X plus, definitely we can do this. I said, okay, what's the number you suggest? And she gave the number. She said, this is something which is doable. And
Mm.
then I said, okay, that's fantastic number. And can we stretch it to a couple of things more? We can see if we can achieve that. She
Mm.
said, yes, we can stretch also. But
Mm.
yes, this is the number that will really hit us, and it will be fantastic for us. And we agreed on the number, and we said, okay, let's get the ball rolling. And what happened? You can guess that we achieved more than the number she said. Of course, it was less than what I had said, but more than the number that she had suggested.
Okay. Now, I think your pointer is uh, we should look at the numbers and be open up saying that we cannot achieve and stuff, and understand how we can enable ourselves to go to the next level is what you are trying to say, right, Bharti?
Yeah,
Yeah. So coming to the next point, somewhere I feel proactivity often requires a kind of a risk, right? And
yeah,
that's a pointer that how do we decide whether it's worth taking risk at that kind of situations? Your take on it, Bharti.
yeah. So if you are continuously working and you're staying there, working on a certain project or working on a certain business vertical, if it still feels riskier, initial risk, of course, there. You overcome that fear, the barrier that you have, and you take the risk, you take the plunge, and you enter, you jump into the market, you do your initial things, and you're achieving certain things. But even after being in that, if you still feel that it is riskier, then I think it's time for you to move from that, move forward, not being there. So that is where I would say that there are three things that has worked always with me. One is my gut instinct that gives me an indicator that it's time for me to move from here. The second is I look at the data, I look at some patterns. If that is not working in my favor, that is the second input. And the third input is I check with my team or with with my consultants perspectives. I hear them about what do they think about the situation that we are in, and that helps me to take a decision on the risk part of it. But yes, it is the risk that's worth taking. If you're running a business, of course it is there.
Yeah. Now again, see, when you talk about risk, you'll also look at the first comers, right, or the first timers who have joined the organization, and they I want to understand from you, how can young professionals build a proactive thinking early in their careers, because they are scared when they start with anything. So how do they build that kind of, and what is needed from your viewpoint?
Yeah. Uh, I would say that proactive thinking requires right questions that you can ask. And
Mhm.
if you are absolutely young professional, it is more better that you start asking these questions, because obviously then your thinking is shifted and you always think in those directions. I use four questions, which
Mhm.
are like a brain scrambling kind of a questions. They are the adaptations from the NLP concepts called Cartesian coordinates. Uh, a simple question I ask myself is, what will happen if I do this? What will happen if
Mhm.
I take this decision? What will happen if I complete this task? How that is going to impact my business? So the first question I ask is, what will happen if I do this?
Mhm.
The second question I ask is, what will happen if I don't do this?
Okay.
So I look at all the questions, all the answers related to this. If I don't do it, what will happen? The third question I ask is, what will not happen if I do this?
Hmm.
Now, that's a flip side first question. And the last question is very important. And that is where the mind scrambling question I always say, what will not happen if I don't do it?
Okay. So what will happen if I do? What will not happen if I do it? And
Good.
yeah, and what is that I have to do, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, the third question is what will happen if I don't do it?
Yeah. Okay.
And the fourth question has both nots. What will not happen if I don't do it?
Okay.
So the fourth question, I say it is important because it's a very profound question that will take you to the deeper insights of the answer that you're seeking for. And that question is going to actually change your entire thinking and make it more proactive.
Okay. I think that's a very important. I think we should put this into our comment section and type it out, saying that these are the 4 pointers that you should look at when you look at kind of doing building a proactive thinking early in your careers, right? I think that's one point. I'll take these questions and I'll put it on the chat. This one. Now coming to the next point. See, proactive leaders, how can they build something called as, or I will put it like this: how can proactive leaders create a workplace culture? Is that possible?
Yeah, I would say when we are talking about proactive leadership, every leader that's there in the organization, they bring a certain kind of culture,
Hmm.
whether you say it, whether you don't say it. But the people who are working in the organization, they bring their own culture. Now if you are a business owner, CEO of a company who's want to inculcate certain culture in the organization, then there are very conscious steps that you may want to take. The first and very important part is you create a safe space for people.
Yeah.
When I say safe, from all the aspects, where if they are making any mistakes, they can own it up the mistake, not punishing them, but giving them feedback and helping them to grow. The second is when you say this is a safe environment where you can share what you want to share,
Hmm.
give ideas, say that you are wrong. Like I remember when I was in TCS, I thought it's a safe space. And
Hmm.
I shared this to my team leader. I said, no, this is not the right data. I think the data is incorrect. There is something that we must look at it from the report. I didn't know I was hitting it bad to the person. And obviously, I had a small hiccup kind of a consequences to it. But yes, is that space safe for your team to speak up and tell you on your face, give you that feedback that boss, this is something that we may want to relook at it. This is not something that we can go ahead. So that's the safe environment. The third, I would say that uh, can you admit the blind spots that you have
Hmm.
and say that yes, this is where I need to grow, this is where I need to learn. Like I remember I was working in I was working with a team of Hitachi people, and one of the participant, he came and said that well, this is where I think I need to grow, and this is the space I need more coaching and mentoring. I said, well, you can put this up to the HR and to your senior manager. Let them take a decision. But of course, I'll put it in my report that you are seeking for this kind of coaching and mentoring. So that's where I would look at it from the culture point of view. Is it safe for people to learn, grow, speak up, admit
Hmm.
what they are going through, and look at it as a mirror where the team is growing, thriving together, not something which is bombarded from top to bottom.
Yeah. No, I think what you said is many organizations. What I've understood is there is no safe culture. I think that's one thing that we should admit, irrespective of the organization. Saying that you said you gave a pointer there where you felt this could be the way you can work out or look at a different perspective. But if a leader has that kind of a viewpoint, then I think the team will feel safe, they feel they are heard, right? And that brings a strong team is what I think is what can uh, happen in nowadays. I think people are very upfront in saying that this will not work, this is how it is to be done, and this is where I think the perspective has changed, and people are listening to the people who are giving such kind of an ideas, because you look at, you will get an overall perspective from his viewpoint, and what is his viewpoint and what is my viewpoint, somewhere if I can make it work. That's the kind of approach that is happening now. Coming to in your journey, when did a reactive choice cost you, and what did you learn from? You just told something there, but I think if you can put a proper pointer to that, where you can have something which the audience can take away, that would be great, Bharti.
Sure, sure. So this is a very this is the answer which is very very personal, and I would like to share that.
Mhm.
Uh, when this COVID, the pandemic time hit, uh, my entire business came to a standstill. It was
Okay.
absolutely at zero,
Hmm.
and I was so devastated that now what will happen, what how
Yeah.
will I be able to from here,
Mm.
the business that I've been growing for so many years, and suddenly it has come to a standstill. Now this is where I learned my mistake, because this was a reactive choice.
Mm.
I was working on the online courses, you know, the recorded videos, the courses, and looking at Udemy as platforms. There were very few at that time, and I was looking at those aspects since 2017. And 2018, slowly and gradually, I started learning about it. But that project was always at the back. It was at the back burner. I never put it in the front, realizing that this could be the main thing in 2020. If I would have done this way back in 2018, I would have been already been an experienced expert in the online space, and would have rather, like, you know, would have really killed and thrived on 2020.
Yeah.
So only it was 2020 when this pandemic thing happened, and everything became standstill, is where it took me 2 to 3 months to first understand the technical know-how about it, the back end and everything. So it was a kind of a uphill task for me to understand everything. I learned and learned a lot of things, online screen space, how to do it, how to be effective. But before all these things, there was a lot of huge limiting beliefs I had that, oh, we can't be effective online. If you want to be effective, it has to be a classroom sessions with physical intervention, one to one. It cannot be online. And I would give kind of stories that how people are not ineffective. And now that 2020 had come in, so no choice but to go through this. So how, even on online, when you are in a virtual space, how can you be effective, connect with the audience, be a part of them, and create an impact? I learned all these things in 2020. So probably another 6 to 8 months went by in a lot of trials, errors, experiments, and that's the cost I paid. It was a heavy cost, but yes, I paid.
Yeah, I think pandemic taught us how to work remote first.
Yeah.
Second is how to face a camera. That's the second thing. Yeah, and people never had that. This one, an effective meeting on a Zoom call or a Teams would be effective. Now
Yeah.
everything happens on Team and Zoom only. Today,
Yeah.
today we are doing this podcast on a virtual platform. We don't need the speaker or the leader to come into a studio, speak about and do all these things. Now sitting at your house you're doing, sitting at my place I'm doing, and we are able to give the same impact that a personal. Only difference is that we don't have a kind of a human to human connect when you are doing the online sessions, because your frame of mind is different, whereas the frame of mind what I'll be at any juncture would be different. But when you are in an office, the difference is you'll have the same frame of mind because you are concentrating and you are there physically present. That's the difference between an online. Otherwise you are not having any challenge, it's absolutely works. That's what I've seen in
Yeah.
most of the virtual sessions. Coming to the next pointer that I wanted to ask, what systems and tools do you use to scan early signals of change or disruption?
Uh, I would say one is the open conversations that I have. Uh, those are my tools that I scan it for my early signals. The second is the feedback loops, the feedbacks that I ask from my clients, from my participants, or from the consultants that I work. And also, if there is anything that is being said or not said, is there something that's bothering? So one question that just opens up everything, and that question is like, okay, tell me more. What is it? Tell me more. Now that's such a neutral question. I'm not pointing out anybody or anything. I said, what is it? Tell me more. And that question opens up things that I have not even thought about it, that that's going on in somebody's mind, and hence the work has been affected, or hence there's a delay, or the work, the quality has been compromised, or something like that. So there's always an open conversation that has worked.
When you say I am there, right, it is a different comfort zone to the team. That's
Yeah,
what I've learned in my career, because everybody is scared to tell something, and they are not having that safe space. That's where the whole
yeah,
structure of issue of telling openly comes up. Now if you say, if there is a mistake, that's still fine, let's fix it, but you need to tell me openly, then I think the conversation goes in a different angle altogether.
yeah.
Okay. Now, coming to the next point that I want to ask, what is one blind spot most of the leaders overlook when planning proactively?
Okay. This is a very fantastic question because it has one word, which is planning proactively, and I always want to clarify this, that when you are adapting proactivity as an approach, as a mindset, it is not about planning only. It is more about, you are seeing something obviously in the future, kind of anticipating it. I'm not saying you're predicting, but kind of anticipating it. You plan it. More important is you start executing it. So you are already way ahead before people arrive, or before even the situation has happened. So it's more about planning and executing it at the same time, not just planning. Now when we are doing all these things, most of the time the leaders that they miss, and I think it's a big miss, is your team ready? You have planned it, you have your fantastic strategy, you have a certain vision and the goal in mind, you are talking and sharing everything. Have you checked on your team? Is it ready? If the team is not ready, how are you going to achieve it? And that is the spot that they are so much into their own space that it gets blinded. They're not able to see that the team needs to be together, not only in understanding of the vision, the goal that you have, the strategy that you have built, but also buying that strategy, getting convinced and being involved in that, and saying yes, we want to take it up and do it. It's like owning it up. That is where the I would say the blind spot is. And that goes on for a toss when things don't work in, in that place. And of course, after a quarter, when you look back and say, okay, what are the numbers, what we have achieved, what we have not achieved, and then things start with blaming each other and the process
I,
systems. So it's not about processes and systems, that you can always look at it and you can make it happen. More important is
Hmm.
on the people. Are they ready for you?
I think that also shift backs to the kind of culture that you build, right? The teams that you build, the way you interact, the way you
Yeah,
upbring them to the next level of leaders. A leader has to bring up another leader, otherwise he's stuck there, right? So he has to go up the ladder.
yeah,
So he has to mentor few people and bring them to, so that they take his lead and he moves forward. Otherwise, the leadership
yeah.
journey does not happen or move on. Now, what are some of the red flags that you are leading reactively, not proactively?
Okay. Uh, I would say, if you are If you're continuously on a
mm,
firefighting mode, it's like, one thing is leading to another. More in terms of if you have escalations, if you have client calls, if you have team meetings which are happening one after the other, you don't have that space to think. You are only doing the task, you are only completing, okay, this is done, that is done. So it's always in the moment, on that day, whatever is happening. Now, I'm not saying that leaders don't plan. They do plan. They plan for 2 days, they plan for one day, they
yeah.
plan for 1 week. That's it. Even if they plan, they don't go back and check whether the plan has actually worked, whether the execution has happened or not. So there are those of these gaps that happen, and these are the red flags, the indicators that will tell you at the end of the day if your energy is
Mm,
exhausted, if you feel that mental fatigue, if you feel that, oh my god, even though I'm sitting on my chair for 8 hours, I'm
mm,
tired. If that is what is happening, that means you are not in that proactive state, you are
reactive
in
state.
that reactive state, because there's a continuous stress that you are taking, and that's what is happening.
Important point there, but what happens is with the current structure that we are working, there are global teams, and the timings are shifting based on clients from all over, and you don't have that space where you plan for one meeting and the other meeting happens. Now, after the COVID period, at least it has become much more, because you don't know when a call comes in or when something lands up. We are working 24 hours actually, to speak, after COVID pandemic, because we want to fix up everything in that day, but that is not how it is getting planned. I think that's what I feel when we started looking at it. How do we balance action versus over analysis while staying proactive? Is there something that you can help me with, Bharti?
Yeah. Uh, I would say that this word over analysis very much correlates with the major challenges people face. And I always quote them that there are four major challenges that you face and that actually make you not proactive. I won't say the flip side of not being proactive is you procrastinate, but of course there is this uh, line that you have drawn for yourself where you are delaying it or you are reacting it. All these situations that you're facing and over analyzing it. One, when you say over analyzing, means you're overthinking about your decisions. You're doubting, you're questioning your own actions and decisions. You're not sure. That is what is happening. The second is, e- either it could be that you're overwhelmed. There are so many things that's going on, and in that overwhelmed state, you are simply doing as it comes, and that is what is putting you things. Or it could be you are in the loop of perfectionism, that you don't want to press the button and say, okay, this is go, let it happen. You are like, just want to make things perfect. Like, I was bitten by perfectionism when I was working in TCS, and I was just doing those small changes on the slides presentations before I go to the meeting and presenting it to the senior management. And that's where I still remember my senior, my boss, he came and he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just making changes on the slide. And he looked at me and said, you're just changing the colors and the fonts, how does it
Yeah.
matter? What matters is what you speak and how would you deliver it. What is the data you're going to share? And that's where I realized that, okay, am I entering into that loop? So over analysis, of course, it can bit you. Overwhelm can bit you. Perfectionism can anytime come and make you stuck. Or it could be that fear, and moves on with the questions of what if. Now, when this happens, how would you balance all these things and be proactive? I would say the first thing is, even when you are 70% ready with your stuff, it could be your presentation slides, it could be your reports, it could be your projects. Even if it is 70% ready, good enough, share it. Because for you, it is 70%, for others, it could be 100%. And the tag that people may put it, oh, this is perfect, I would say, let's not put that tag anymore. I would say, okay,
Yeah.
this is good. Where can we make changes so that becomes better? because feedback is anytime going to come and it will come. There has to be changes. Even we have changed and we are changing continuously every day, and that's what is making us better and better. If we are doing, if this is happening with us, then how can it not happen with
No,
anybody else?
I
So
remember one pointer where I wanted to tell you was that uh, I am from the technology side, and I do a lot of
uh-huh.
I do infrastructure and cloud and the security side. Now, when we talk
Hmm.
about cyber security, we talk about saying that we are safe as on today. We cannot tell tomorrow, right? Because the landscape is changing, the applications are changing, new features are coming up, the softwares are getting updated, and you when you bring new software upgrades, it is not always safe, right? And you can have some malicious code coming inside, and you can have. But how do we look at? We can say we are protected till date, but is there a scope for improvement? Yes, always, right?
Yeah,
I look at that only when you are saying that you can have a presentation to stage where uh, you can have it up to 70% or 80%. In the project management scenario, if you really look at, what we used to look at is you cannot have 100% right contract and right solution build, because every solution, based on the implementation, there could be changes, because some things may not be the same when we have designed it is bound to change.
yeah,
And that is where we used to tell the customer, sir, I have a scope, but there would be about 10 to 15% of deviation in the scope when we go into implementation. That is
yeah,
how we accept and do the project. So when the scope changes, we know there are certain changes that are there. But if I have to rewrite the entire code, that's a complete change, right? It does not help.
yeah,
So there should be a rework on how we have estimated totally, right? That's what I think what you're saying
yeah,
in as many words as you're saying. Now, how can the proactive leadership reduce burnout in teams, which you spoke? Is it possible?
yeah.
If it is possible, and how, is what I want to understand.
Yeah, I love the statement that you gave right now, stating that we are safe
Yeah,
as on today. And that's a fantastic statement, because every industry, even though the definition may change or tweak, but the basic concept will
yeah.
still remain the same. We are
Yeah,
good today, we don't
tomorrow.
know about tomorrow. We are fine today, we are doing things good enough for today. Let's look at it how the things
Mm,
can be better. There's always a space, there's always a
yeah.
room for changes. And that's where I would say, when teams work in such kind of projects, and a lot depends on leaders who are initiating these projects, they are directing these projects. It may lead to burnout if things are not in a proactive state. Of course, we can reduce this. I remember I was reading an article on Google company, and how using a very simple thing, they actually saved and created a lot of different aspects of it. So, what they did was, if any employee is working for say 40 hours
Mm,
a week, Monday to Friday, uh, 20% per week, they need to give this 20% to their personal
yeah.
project, whatever personal things that they want to do. Now, what happened was that 20% was so mandatory and compulsory. Of course, they started with one experiment, they started with a very few teams, and then when they saw the results, they started doing it more. Now, what that 20% actually gave an employee or a team member, it gave that space to think and work on something which is so enjoyable, which is something which has a freedom to do things, freedom to take decisions, freedom to fall, freedom to learn. So many things that you collaborate, ask, so many things that you can do in that 20%. The outcome that they got was Google Space, the G
Mm,
Suites, G Suites that they launched, and there was one more project which they got it. It was only because of this 20% that they gave leverage to all the employees. Now, the idea was to reduce burnouts, reduce the delays, and give and inculcate the culture of creativity. But what the outcome that came out was fantastic that they had not even thought of. And this is what I always recommend everybody, whether it is me working in my business, whether it's you working in your business, or anybody, have the 20% where you have that open space for yourself, doing anything that's creative, and you don't know what may come out. Like I'll give you an example of myself. I love to paint, and I took that 20% as an experiment. I said, let me do this and see what comes out. I just did some kind of few paintings on my sketchbook, and I showed it to my couple of friends who are also in the same business of professional speaking. And they said, "This is wow! Why don't you use this as a visuals in your coming book? Why don't you use these visuals in your social media and narrate stories?" Now, I didn't know how this would help, but it just things came out. And those are absolutely original paintings, ideas, not copyrighted, copied from anywhere, from Google space, from public space.
That's very nice way of putting it. When we look at what you do with passion will not make you burn out is what I understand, because when you look at passion, you keep going, otherwise you'll get burnt out. And there was one pointer that you said was Google's main uh, project which they are more successful is the Chrome browser, which is that is one project
Yeah.
is what I
Yes.
understand. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll have to recheck, but
Yeah.
somewhere I also read saying that Chrome browser is one project which was a 20% time project that they did. And
Yes.
that's how Chrome came into the market is what I understand. And that's where
Yeah.
we are coming to
True.
the last question that we have, because we have about 8 minutes to
Uh-huh.
go. And in that, as a CEO or a business owner, how do you embed proactive thinking into every level of an organization? Because proactive should be everywhere, right? So it is not one space. So your take on it.
I would say make
Hmm.
it a culture. It has to be a culture which has been grown by the people. It can't be a top to
Hmm.
down approach, and down to top it won't work. So it has to be inculcated by the people. Now, when you want to do this with people, with your teams, you need to have a space
Hmm.
for learning. Like I'll give you an example of a CEO. My husband was working with this company, and he had a very fantastic way of appreciating the performances, acknowledging the potential that people have. And he had
Hmm.
two targets. He said one is a soft target, one is a
Okay.
hard target. Now, uh, for me, I was like, okay, what is this
Hmm.
hard target? He said, hard target is nothing but numbers. Of course, we are here for business, so we look at the numbers. So they have their monthly, weekly targets. They go through it and they kind of achieve it on a quarter and 6 monthly, yearly basis. They get their
Hmm.
incentives, and based on that, there is a performance review. I said that's fantastic because everybody is there. What about this soft target? What is this soft target? What he had done was he had identified
Hmm.
10 books, and these 10 books as a leader. So for example, you're a team leader in a and handling a team of say 5 or 10 people. You need to read and present, give stories, give examples from
Hmm.
that book, and present this to your team, to any of the team. May not be
Okay.
only your team, it could be any teams that are there in the company, and you need to give that presentation from that book. And he had set targets of that soft goal. Say if there are 10 books in a quarter, you need to complete at
Hmm.
least 5, and next quarter you complete another 5, and then there will be, and then another 10 will unlock. So in a year you're actually reading at least 10 to 15 books which are related to management, leadership, communication, all different topics, negotiation, influencing, all different topics. And he said, so There were a few team leaders, managers in the companies. They had completed their hard target and they had achieved. They didn't get the appraisal. They didn't get the promotion also. Of course, there was grievances. They came back and they
Mm,
said why, and the CEO was blunt enough to say because you have not completed your
yeah.
soft target. So unless and until they completed, then they were eligible for the promotion and the performance. Now, this is a kind of culture that a CEO can set, where you are giving that space for learning. You are building bottoms up approach for feedbacks, for initiatings. You're rewarding them. When you have that kind of culture built in the company, that is where, even though a reactive person will tend to be proactive, even though a person who is delaying has a tendency to delay, will be up on the feet and will say, okay, let me put something here and give my best. So you can change, you can shift people's mindset, their ways, their strategies, if they're a part of that kind of a culture. I think that will really
Yeah, I
definitely
think
work.
that's a lovely way. I think you hard targets and soft targets. You give that, and that comes out because most of the people are excellent in getting hard targets, where soft they are not able to do the soft. So thank you for that, and we have come to the final questions. I've taken some notes. I'll just take out. I've been writing something on the this one on the other screen, so I'll go through the pointers that we've discussed so far in last 50 minutes. We spoke about what is proactive leadership and what does that mean in today's volatile business is what we spoke about. Then we spoke about a moment where proactive uh, being proactive saved a company from a major setback. That's what we spoke about, where we spoke about a real time example, highlighted some of the decision making impact, speed, risk, how we spoke about risk, what could be a outcome of that. We took a small example also about certain companies that we did and certain customers we spoke about. Nothing to name as a specific customer because we are not talking any company or any person here. It is pure personal talk that based on the experience that Bharti has or I have over the industry over the last 20 plus years. That's what we've been speaking. Then we spoke about fear of change and decision analysis. That's one pointer where most of the people feel they are stuck and they are not able to give that kind of. Then we spoke about responsive mode to readiness mode, how you can be a responsive guy. Then how do you prepare yourself and be ready for doing something. And what we did on a daily habits process is what we spoke. Morning rituals, as Bharti rightly said, she'll ask one question and that question evolves over the period, and over the day she does not have any checklists that she's maintaining. Rather than I have checklists which I miss most of the time because one piles up to the other, and it becomes the 80-20 rule kind of a thing, where 20% of the work is the top 2 3 things that take up the whole thing. The rest I have to move to something else. That's the point that I do when I do checklists. Then we spoke about how invisible threats are emerging and how crisis becomes one of the pattern when we don't take it properly or identify it properly. Then we spoke about risks and how risk can be, is it worth taking? That's a very important discussion. We spoke about whether we should take and whether it is worth taking a risk. And then we spoke about some of the young professionals, how they can build proactive thinking in their earlier careers, where we put some 4 pointers which Bharti gave us. I posted them on the comment section. That's where we did. Then we spoke about workplace culture, how trust is built, how ownership is built, how psychological safety is maintained, and how you can be heard and there is a scope for team to tell something if something is going wrong. Then we spoke about other pointers of tools. Then we spoke about blind spots. Then we spoke about red flags, reactive versus proactive, how it can be done. Then we spoke about access action versus over analysis. That's another pointer we spoke about. Then we spoke about burnout, which is predominantly causing all the stress. I'll take one example. I was reading or listening to Rohit Shetty, who's a filmmaker. He was saying, what is stress? So somebody asked him. So he said, stress is when you don't want to do something and you're not interested something. We used to do 3 shifts and we never had stress because we are always learning. So that's what we used to call work. Now it is called stress. So I like that way he explained. There's a very nice video on YouTube if you can search on Rohit Shetty talking about filmmaking and stress. That's
Sure.
one thing that I thought I'll put across. Finally, we spoke about how do you embed a thinking of proactiveness in every level of the organization is what we spoke, Bharti. And to the audience, this is the summary that we took in the 50 minutes of talk that we did. And any final conclusion pointers that you want to take before we conclude, Bharti? All yours.
Oh my God, this is like excellent. How the way you have put everything in place and say, okay, this is how we went through. The last part is, I would say, don't look at proactive leadership as micromanagement or a constant hustle. It's a myth. It is not a micromanagement. It is not a constant hustle. In fact, it is such a peace of mind when you put things into a proactive approach and you lead your team, you lead your company. It gives you ample space, mental space to do the things that you
I
want to.
think I'll take last pointer where I say many of us take insurance, but we don't use it. That's a proactive step. Because if something
Yeah.
happens, you have insurance to cover. Otherwise, you are not covered, right? So it's a proactive step we take every year, and 95% don't claim insurance in a year. So that's touch wood that 5% also should
Mhm.
not be claiming, but that's how the scenario is today. And Bharti, thank you for being here. And to the audience, we have streamed this to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And hope you found this discussion valuable. And thank you for joining us. And we have our podcast scheduled on the 262nd episode on breaches to brilliance using AI to predict, prevent, and protect data on 17th of June at 6:30 p.m. Looking forward to see you again. Good day and bye. Thank you, Bharti. Thank you for joining us. And it's been a
Thank you
pleasure
so much.
having you here on the session, Bharti.
Same here. Thank you so much.